Today we're changing the oil on a 2015 Honda CR-V Touring. You can see we already have it up on these little ramps so that we can get under the vehicle a little bit easier. Now another thing, just to be safe, since you're pulling your car up onto ramps or however you're doing it, you want to make sure that you chock your wheels as well before you get under the vehicle. So put some sort of rock or anything right there to keep the vehicle from rolling back. So now that I have wheel chocks in place, I can go ahead and get under the front of the vehicle and start changing the oil. So in order to change the oil on this Honda CR-V, we're going to want a couple of different things. We're going to want a new oil filter. I went with the Fram Tough Guard. It's a TG7317. And then you're also going to want something to help you take off the oil filter. This is just a little like oil filter socket. It's really easy to use. They sell these at Walmart in the auto parts section. Then you're also going to want to get new oil, as well as some sort of funnel to be able to dump the new oil back in. And then you're going to want a 17 millimeter socket to take off the oil drain plug. Also, with the oil, probably easiest to get 5 quarts, to just get one of these big ones, because you're going to need 4.6 quarts total once you take off the oil filter as well to refill the oil reservoir. Also going to want to have some sort of oil pan or something to catch the bad oil. So on this CR-V, the oil drain plug is right down under the front side of the vehicle. If you come right up under here, you'll see it says engine oil right here, and it's pointing straight to this bolt right here. That'll be how you'll drain the oil. And then once you have your oil pan lined up underneath your drain plug, you can go ahead and unscrew this. Once again, that's gonna take a 17 millimeter socket to unscrew that. So you can unscrew that kind of slowly, and then once you get to where you can loosen it with your fingertips, you can go ahead and slide it off and then get it out of the way really quick. So it's, once you get near the end, kind of keep some pressure on it, and then once you're really close, you can just get it out of the way really quick, and it'll all drain into your pan. One thing to keep an eye on is you want to make sure that your pan is somewhat level. Typically they'll make the pans to where they'll drain down into the corner, so you want to make sure it's level so that you're not leaking oil everywhere. And so you can go ahead and wait for that to finish draining. While we're waiting, we'll go ahead and get our the tool we need to take the oil filter off ready. So we're still underneath the car. Honda made this really easy. So here is your engine oil. That's your drain plug right there. And then if you just come up a tiny bit, right here is where your oil filter is. So it's nice and easy to get to. I have my oil filter socket ready to go, so I'll go ahead and take this off. I want to make sure that I wait for this to drain as much as I can, and then I'll put that bolt back in, wipe it off real quick, and then I'll slide this drain pan underneath, because there will be some oil stuck in here as well, so I want to make sure we catch that in the oil pan. So I have this screwed back in, and one thing that I like to do, which I'll pull it back out to show you, is take a little bit of oil that's left over. It doesn't need to be clean oil, but you can take some of the oil that's left over and rub it along the outside right there, and if you want to, you can rub it on that little washer right there as well. But that will help lubricate that washer so that you get a nice tight seal on that drain plug without having to crank down on it as so much, because you really don't want to crank down too hard when you're tightening that drain plug. So I'll go ahead and tighten that back on. You don't want to tighten it too much. Really, you should just put about as much force as you can in with your wrist to tighten it. You don't want it to be over tightened on there. So I'm loosening it now. Now one thing that you do want to make sure that I forgot to do is pull your oil pan over and have it underneath your oil filter before you unscrew it. And then you can go ahead and unscrew it with your hand the rest of your way. Be careful because it will have a lot of oil in it still. There it goes. You'll see the rest of the oil drained out. You can go ahead and dump the oil in there, out, then set that upside down and let that drain into your oil pan. So we got our new oil filter here. We'll go ahead and put this one on. Make sure if you're waiting for the rest of the oil to drip out, make sure that you screw your engine oil drain plug back on and have it nice and tight. And then we'll go ahead and screw our new oil filter back on there. You want to do the same thing that you did with the oil drain plug. Take some oil from just wherever or around and rub it along that little black gasket right there, because that'll help you get a really good seal. That's the new oil filter on there. Just make sure you try to get it as tight as you can. It's in kind of a weird position. So get it as tight as you can with your hand. Don't use the oil filter socket to tighten it down, because you really don't need to. So once you've made sure that you finished tightening the oil drain plug and tightening the new oil filter on there, then you can go ahead and put more oil back into the oil reservoir. So on this Honda, you'll come right here to the center of the engine, and it'll say 0W20 on it. That's the oil that we're using. You can go ahead and unscrew that, and you want to make sure you use a funnel right here just to make sure you're not getting it all over the engine. So you can go ahead and get your funnel set up, and I'm using Castrol Edge Extended Maximum Performance. It's for high mileage vehicles, and it's synthetic. We had already been using synthetic in this engine, so we want to make sure if you're using synthetic, then or if it had synthetic in it, that you're using synthetic to replace the oil as well. So I'll go ahead and put around 4 quarts in there, and then I'll check the oil using that orange dipstick right there, and then if it's anywhere near, then I'll go ahead and pull it off the ramps so that I can get a better reading on it, because obviously with it being on the ramps, the oil dipstick isn't going to read correctly. So I went ahead and filled it up. I'm down to about 1 quart right here, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and check the oil level using that orange dipstick, and if it's looks like it's pretty close, then I'll go ahead and put the car on flat ground. So when you're checking the oil on your 2015 Honda CR-V, you will come right into the engine compartment, pop the hood, and there will be an orange, should be an orange dipstick right here on the front side, and you'll see the tube is going all the way down. That's going to the oil reservoir, and so that's your oil dipstick. You'll go ahead and pull that out and then wipe it off and then stick it back in, and then you can pull it out again and check to see where the fluid level is at. So when you're checking your oil, you want the oil level to be in between those two little dots right there is the goal. So as you can see on mine, the oil is pretty low. It's just barely at that little twisted part on the oil dipstick. So I need to fill mine up more. So I went ahead and checked the oil, and the oil level is good. It's pretty close to that bottom circle on the dipstick. And so once I pull it off the ramp, I'll go ahead and cut it off again real quick and check the oil again on flat ground to get a better reading, and then fill it up as I need to. So I went ahead and screwed that back on, and now I'll go ahead and close up the hood. I'll pull this out, snap it back in, close the hood, and then pull it off the ramps, and then check the oil again one more time really quick. And so I finished checking the dipsticks close to where it needs to be, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it on to level ground. You don't necessarily need to put the hood down as long as you're not driving far. I'm just going to back it off the ramps. But one thing you do want to make sure you do is go ahead and pull your chocks out before you try to back down the ramp. So I went ahead and pulled the vehicle off the ramps, so we're on pretty flat ground. I'll go ahead and check the oil using this orange dipstick again, and make sure that it's between, I'll show you real quick. You want to make sure that it's between those two little dots right there, and if it's between those two little dots, then you should be good to go. So I've checked the oil. I filled it up to where it needs to be. I had to put about another 0.3 quarts of oil in. So now that that's the oil level is where it needs to be, I can go ahead and close this up. And on these Honda CR-Vs, they have a setting inside the vehicle. So you're going to want to get in your vehicle, hold down the brake, press the start button, and then one thing you'll see is that it says service due soon. So I'm assuming you're changing your oil because you saw that light turn on. So what you can do is you can flip through. Right there it has your oil life. I'll zoom in so you can see it a little better. It says there's 10% oil life left. So once you've changed the oil and the oil level is where it needs to be, you have a new filter on there, you can go ahead and reset this on your vehicle's computer. So what you'll do is you'll be pressing these buttons right here to change. So there's a select button in the middle, and then there's an up and down. So you'll press the up button until you see vehicle settings, then you'll press the middle button, select, and so I'll zoom in a little bit. So now you'll press the up button again, and you'll go to maintenance reset. You'll press select, you'll click down, you'll click on reset, and it'll say reset completed. And so now you can go to exit, and then you'll be at, it'll say vehicle settings again. You'll click the up arrow, and now it'll say oil life is at 100%. And so you've now reset your oil life on the computer in your vehicle, so it'll warn you when your vehicle gets down to 15% oil life left.